What's up, everybody? Jordan Miller here with Run to Gun. Here with my friend Devin, maybe one of my oldest friends. Friends since like
been a while.
kindergarten.
Yeah.
And like myself, Devin's been hunting ever since he was a little kid as well. And we actually got he got his biggest deer this last year. I got my biggest deer this last year. And we were actually kind of in the same area as each other, so we got to, see each other's deer, experience it with each other a little bit. But we also, over the course of the years growing up in South Dakota, went from, hunting South Dakota to now venturing off and starting to do these other hunts over the last 6 years, and just a totally different experience for us.
Totally different. Yeah, I mean, this year we did or last year in 2018, me and a group of buddies went from hunting Midwest only. We've done all kinds of hunts in the Midwest. We've deer hunted, coyote hunted, everything that you can pretty much do, to going out to the Bitterroot Mountains in Idaho to do a black bear hunt. And honestly, we thought we were just as prepared as you could get. I mean, we thought we bought good gear, packed everything we needed, and got into the shape that we needed to be in, only to quickly realize that hunting in those other areas, especially when you have the major elevation changes and everything else that goes along with that, it's different. I mean, we found out that, especially like our boots, that we thought were perfect for hunting, because around here they would have been. Not so much. The stiffer sole is definitely required for doing those, steep hikes up the mountains, and it was hard to, prepare physically for that, because we just didn't know really what to expect. We went and walked some hills with our packs on and thought, golden.
Thought you were good?
Not so much. Which I'm sure that you've been there at one point in time as well too. Just kind of get, you're guessing. It's totally guessing, trying to hope that what you're about to get into.
Yeah, it's those first time experiences, like truly learning. Luckily, you had youth on your side.
Yeah,
definitely on that.
cool.
But it's cool, like what you're getting into, and what we'll start getting into here is the learning aspect. Those first times, and like he mentioned, like he had boots that are perfect for around here, perfect. For anywhere South Dakota, whether it be on the plains or even in the Black Hills, even you can get away with them.
Oh yeah, easy.
And which it is can be somewhat rough in certain areas, but nothing compared to being out in some of those areas in Idaho or Colorado.
We learned too on those expedition hunts like that, where we were out there for a week out in the hills or out in the mountains and didn't see anybody else other than the guy that I went with. Minimal. I mean, you need to go minimal. We went in there, we were young and dumb and eager and ready to go, and we both had about 60 pounds on our backs, and that killed us. I mean, we had stuff we never even used, just dumb stuff. You want to prepare for everything, but you really got to be choosy. And that was one of our biggest lessons: is don't bring 500 pairs of clothing and everything else that you're not gonna wear. I wore the same thing all week. Yeah, I stunk, but you know what?
Yeah.
Problem was too, when you're walking that much, I got so hot that anything that was heavier than my lightest stuff, you were just dying anyways. So you never wore it. So to have that mindset before you get in there and go, oh crap, I got all this stuff. What do I do with it now? Now I'm stuck with it to continue on with my hunt. Not the best way to go about it. Definitely talk to people that have done it first and try to learn from their mistakes, I think, is my biggest piece of advice.
Perfect. So we're already on the subject of gear, and you already said, hey, kind of tip number one is that don't be afraid to reach out to people who have done these style of hunts, and get a gear list, or just talk to them about the gear they're using. So we're already on the subject of gear. We talked about the boots, making sure if you're going to these bigger terrains, higher elevations, you suggested that stiffer sole boot for sure. I definitely second that. So next piece, we're talking about good boots, so making sure we got a good boot. Price, obviously, you're going to get up there a little bit, but that's okay, because you don't want to be miserable. I've been miserable on my first mountain hunt, where I definitely underdid it on a boot. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I was very light boot. I thought it was the right way to go because it was light.
Yeah.
But it was that have some speed on the prairie, the Badlands, have good sneaking ability out here in South Dakota. It was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
The minute I got in that elevation, man, like it makes your legs work more when you don't have that stiff sole.
Definitely.
You definitely feel it in the arches of your feet, your ankles,
especially
everything.
when you're carrying weight on top of everything else.
And that's the key thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is you're carrying your everyday weight, but then if you actually have to do a pack out and then you don't have those stiff soles, you're really finding yourself in a bind when it comes to just leg comfortability, your feet aching and hurting, your knees, ankles, everything.
And being miserable doing those kind of things, it's just going to limit you on what you're going to be willing to do. I mean, you're not going to get the full extent out of the full experience out of your hunt, because you're going to be, I'm kind of sore, I'm kind of tired, my feet hurt, whatever, and you're not going to want to walk over that next ridge to check out and see what's in there. So you're kind of limiting yourself by not getting the right stuff.
Yes.
I mean, mentally, you're going to end up breaking down a little bit more and just not take full advantage of the situations.
Right. So we have the talking to somebody, researching. We have the boots. What's the next piece of equipment you think for yourself, what you learned on this first big expedition hunt in Idaho that you would switch, or that you were happy with that piece of gear?
A good pack.
Okay.
The pack I've been running I really like. Everybody's got their own taste. I mean, there was 4 of us that all went, and we all, I think, had a different pack. And, for the most part, everybody's pretty happy. The one thing I will say is don't go cheap.
Yeah.
And I say that because the one guy that did, he wasn't overly impressed with his.
Sure.
And because those expedition hunts are trying, and they're hard on equipment. And if you get the cheaper pack, you might save a little bit at the beginning, but you're going to pay for it in the long run by, he was having buckles break and stuff come undone. And, it just, that can be one of those things where you save up front, but you pay for it in the end.
Yep.
And, a pack to be able to carry the weight for what you need, and the pack out on top of that, and be comfortable. I mean, there's nothing worse than having your neck and your shoulders
Shoulders
be sore
the whole time
because you've been carrying a weight that's not, distributing on your hips nicely or anything else. So pack is a big thing to me.
I agree. I was there once on my first hunt too, where I bought a mid-range pack that was a great day pack, but I had packed out several elk with it over the years. And after my first one, I said I'd never do it again. I'd buy a new pack. Well, I still got cheap, and I kept it, and I ended up packing out 2 more elk and several deer with it over a couple years. This was 6 years ago, 5 years ago. And finally I packed out 1 more, and I was like, dude, what are you doing? And I went and actually spent money on a nice pack, and I had my first couple experiences packing out some elk. I packed out this elk right behind me with a nicer pack, and I'm like, what did I do those first couple years without this? Like, just the comfortability, and you mentioned that experience. My enjoyment factor
changes.
It really went up. Just I really enjoy packing out animals now. It's you put up with that little bit of pain, just the tiredness of having weight, but it's not just dire uncomfortable everywhere. It's not killing you so bad. So we'll probably key back on this several times about that enjoyment factor and the experience, in that I understand, like, it gets expensive. Like, everything starts adding up. But if you can just have a list every year and just add to it a little bit and get those quality pieces.
Yeah, I mean, not everybody can justify just jumping in and buying everything. I didn't find myself in that situation. I've added on a little bit every year, getting a little nicer equipment, a little nicer gear, a little nicer boots, packs, everything else that comes with it, including rifles and whatnot too. And a big thing is, look for the sales. Wait for the holidays. A lot of times you look at stuff, especially during the summertime, and everything's going on sale by that point because there's not a lot of hunts going on. Early, Christmas time, February, this time of year, everything's on sale. Look for those sales. Try to take advantage of them. Maybe you save $100 here or $100 there. It all adds up.
But those $100 saved here or there buys you that $500 pair of boots.
Exactly.
So it's key. So we talked about the pack, the boots. You got anything else that you would definitely suggest?
Depending on where you're going and what you're doing, something good for, a water source. I always carry a 2-liter or a 3-liter bladder bag and a 1-liter bottle on my hip when I'm out on there. And then what I did is I bought a water filter, like an MSR water filter pump. I know you use Life Straw quite a bit.
Yep.
Those things are awesome because, I mean, you can't justify carrying in water into these areas. It's too much weight. I mean,
right. And if you're not from there where you can pack it in over the summer, it's impossible.
Yeah,
right?
You need to have a good way to get water, stay hydrated. I mean, that's going to be a big thing on these hunts too, is that you stay hydrated. You're burning through a lot of calories too. You're sweating a lot. Stay full, stay hydrated. Being energized is going to keep you going. You're going to get a lot more out of your hunts, and that's the main thing that you want to do. Is you don't want to drive 24 hours away to go on a hunt
right.
and be tired and not take full advantage of it. You want to be out there hunting every second that you possibly can.
Yes.
And the best ways that you can do that is just be comfortable, hydrated, and full.
And it makes that entire experience. And I think you really nailed it with that last one too, because it's something that's overlooked. Everybody thinks about packing their food and doing those things, but ultimately, like, your performance on the mountain and your longevity on the mountain, how long you can stay out there and how great you feel, really barrels down to getting in the right nutrients for your body,
very much.
And the right hydration can play a key factor in how good you feel.
Yep.
And it's overlooked so frequently. So I know it's hard when you're on these expeditions in the sense of packing in light. You mentioned that not overdoing it.
Yep.
And finding those food sources that don't weigh as much. And we're still trying to maintain a good macronutrient profile, getting in protein, carbs, and fats when we're out there.
Yep.
Obviously, the freeze-dried meals have been a game changer for us hunters out there.
They've been awesome. They really have.
Because we get in high carbohydrate, we get in high sodium with them, which is awesome for us.
Yep.
And obviously, I've really noticed in my own research with this is like, it's really easy to pack along fat sources that are really light. I mean, all these companies are making these great fat sources that are really light. And they are high calorie, and I know that's one of the things that guys are looking at when they're building their days is, I'm trying to hit 3,000 calories per day packing light. And so they're looking at fats because, to give you guys an easy breakdown, 1 gram of fat is 9 calories.
Yeah.
Compared to a protein and a carb, 1 gram of fat's 4 calories. So it's double dense, right?
Yeah.
But you're not gaining the same amount of energy and recovery from fats as you are with carbohydrate and protein.
Yeah.
So still thinking about that a little bit. Obviously, a big majority of our proteins coming in from those freeze-dried meals.
Yep.
Because you're obviously not packing in big protein sources.
Yeah.
But if you can find these carbohydrate sources that are lighter as well, and not overlook and find little ways to get in a little bit more carbohydrate, you're going to find that energy spikes really quick with those carbohydrates. Even if they're simple carbohydrates that you can get in quick, man, that
anything, I always try to carry some, it's not the lightest weight stuff, but some trail mix.
Yep.
Or jerky in one of my pouches on my pack belt. Just because, when you're walking, you take a little stop, you glass for a while, throw in some food, just recoup a little bit.
Yeah.
Give yourself some energy, and then when you if you do see something, you got the energy to go after it, or continue on.
Yeah.
So.
We always carry, and this is like a Matt McCraney tip right here. It's like he always carries the little Jolly Rancher, the old school that you would just suck on, little Jolly Rancher hard candies, because they don't weigh anything, and you're getting straight sugar, straight carbohydrate out of those, and they take up no space. So you're looking at light, no space, and sugar quick. And so like he calls them like, you want a bump, you want a little hit, and so he'll keep in those side pouches when he's just hiking. He'll throw one of those in, and it just a little bit of fuel, and it's and more importantly, I think out of that too is it's a big mental boost. Like you feel good when you get to have something. Exactly. That's just as much part of the game as anything.
Yeah, I mean whatever gets you going and keeps you going. I mean that's the important thing.
Exactly.
You just got to keep going. You don't want to waste your hunt.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about gear. Any more gear before we jump into the fitness side of things?
There's so much.
There's a million things.
I mean, you could go on forever as far from your optics to your sunglasses, for God's sakes. A lot of guys don't wear them. I always do.
Yeah.
Just
all the way to
doing
chapstick and sunscreen.
Yeah, that's
like these little things that are always
sunscreen is whoo.
Sunscreen
boy.
and chapstick. I'm a big don't forget the chapstick guy.
Yep.
I think if I could give you one little tip of hey, one thing you're gonna forget that you wish you had on a mountain hunt is chapstick and a little bit of sunscreen.
And I'm the guy, I never deal with chapped lips, but it seems like the instant I get on one of these hunts and you're sitting up on, some hillside or mountainside or something, you're going, my lips hurt.
And it's so much of the elevation and the sun intensity that we're not used to in South Dakota.
No.
I mean, we're living at 2,000 feet elevation, around that, plus or
minus.
minus.
That with getting the sunburn a couple times,
yeah.
But that
so
happens.
if you can grow out a little beard,
get
save the skin.
Yeah, that'll help.
And then pack a little sunscreen, just buy the little mini traveler that you can at least put on your nose and crest of your cheeks and a little bit of your ears.
Ears are a good one.
It'll save you. My brother Matthew, our film producer, he packs like a schmog with him on all these hunts.
Yep.
And it doesn't weigh anything. He can tie it to his bag. He can use it for anything. But when he gets up in the mountain, he's covering up because we are white as white folk and save our skin a little bit.
It happens.
Yeah, definitely. So you mentioned too, the right away, you got up in the mountains, you did what you thought was physical preparation, and it was.
Yeah, it
was. Still was,
and
but
the thing that I learned is it's preparing for where you're going specifically. I mean, I spent a lot of time on the treadmill, running incline, going up and down hills with my pack on and some weight. Should have spent more time on the stair stepper.
Yep.
I mean, with the pack on, with some added weight, and doing that kind of stuff, because it was, you get there and you look up and you go, that doesn't look so bad, until you actually start walking up that mountain and realize, holy cow, my calves are on fire, my back hurts. It's 100% making sure that you're prepping for where you are going.
Yep. Exactly.
And it's not just as easy as hopping on the treadmill or running around the block. I mean, you gotta put more thought into it than what I did, for sure. I definitely learned the hard way that that doesn't work out. I mean, we were able to power through it, but if we were, a few years older, it wouldn't have been that way.
Yeah, and workouts that not only somewhat prep you physically, but during the week that there's mental challenges to get through in those workouts. So when you reach the mountain and those day 4s, those day 5s or just the initial ascent, anything like that you're mentally prepared, not just physically prepared.
Yeah, and rest. Ooh, boy. We were on a tight time schedule when we went. We drove 24 straight hours to get out to Idaho, which isn't that long of a drive normally, but where we had to kind of come back around because there was so much snow and avalanches in areas to where we weren't able to get a direct route to the area we wanted to go hunt.
Sure.
Took a lot longer than what we initially intended. So we drove 24 straight hours pretty much to get there. No sleep, junk food the whole way, which terrible idea. And we started going up that mountain, and holy cow!
You're feeling the Wendy's fries from
we didn't even get
drive-thrus.
hardly halfway up, and I was about to puke and die at the same time. So I don't recommend that.
Yeah.
As the day went, and I got a couple hours of sleep and took in some good sustenance. It totally changed my feel or how I felt while I was actually doing the hikes after that. But when you're tired and malnourished,
yeah,
you know what I meant there. It really doesn't help. I mean, you got to make sure to take care of yourself on the way there.
That's such
Don't
a great
forget
point.
what you're going to do.
That's such a great point. Because I've heard this story numerous times, but I've never and I applied it for myself, but I've never really talked about it.
Yeah,
like
mean, we were drinking pop and everything.
Yeah,
and
I've heard this so many
stuff
times
that we
from
don't
guys.
normally do, but we figured we're on the road.
Yeah.
What do you do on the road?
Yeah.
You eat
stop
junk food and you drink pop, stuff that you don't eat and you don't drink, and we got there and it took a toll.
Yeah, it's not normal to our bodies if you're not eating that way going into this. And so many guys I know that'll stay overnight, they'll go to a steakhouse, have a big old steak and stuff, which is fine, but they'll have some beers with it too.
Mm-hmm.
They're not drinking as much water when they're traveling because they're just sitting in their truck driving. A lot of times they're just having pop, like you said, energy drinks, which is great, keeping you awake, but you're not hydrating yourself. You're not hydrating the muscles before going up into the mountain. And then, like you said, you're hitting drive-thrus. You're trying to stay on the road and get there.
Yep, and then you just end up losing time when you actually get there because you're not ready. anymore to start right away.
Actually,
you gotta
I love that point.
before you can even start.
It's something that is always overlooked, and it's a hard thing. And I've made that mistake myself. My first Colorado hunt, I actually did that. I didn't drink enough water on the drive down there, and we were camping at 10,000 almost, just shy of 10, and hiking to just shy of 14 every day. And that first day worked me, man. And it worked me so much that I was hurting then more than I should have been on day 2 and 3.
Yeah.
And so it made that part of it a lot more miserable than it needed to be, because it took me that much to just from catching up on being dehydrated, and then after all the hiking, trying to even get rehydrated, nearly impossible.
Yeah, I mean it wiped me out so bad, and I'm really glad my buddy Jesse isn't here to tell the story. It was embarrassing.
It's pretty bad, yeah.
I mean, I was confused. I was like, what is going on? I was ready for this. Like, why am I dying? And I mean, like I said, after getting some rest and getting some good food inside my stomach, I was able to go do those hikes. But the first day, I mean, I was so not in the right shape to do it. I mean,
and then the
totally
intimidation
wasted
factor
about half
comes
a day
in,
just
right?
Because of it. So
agreed. That's such a great point that I think guys kind of forget about. They spend all the months prepping, but then like the day or two going into it, the travel to get there. That's a very good point. I'm glad we touched on that. We can kind of roll that right into our fitness. Like you said, you would have spent more time doing a couple different other things. I've prepped for a lot of hunts over the last 6 years, and I've used several different methods, from higher cardio to a lot of just weight training. And recently on this probably the best shape I've ever been in on a hunt was a longer elk hunt, a week long, put in a boatload of miles. And I used a method where I used a combination of high intensity aerobic exercise along with heavy weight training, like strength training, where the reps are between 3 and 5-ish, even with some 2 reps. I mean pushing some heavy weight, and just modulating that along with some mid reps, that 10 to 12, sometimes 15, and just undulated that throughout my weeks. And I'd never been in such good of shape going into a hunt. Like, never got sore. I mean, more miles than I've ever put on in a week. And it's just, I think what I'm trying to touch base on is that you use past experiences
for sure
to then prep forward for the next one.
Yep.
And you kind of know that, hey, what works for you, because individually we all have our own strengths and weaknesses when it comes to our physical fitness and our mental fitness, and we have to pick and pry and try areas that we know or haven't tried that we think could get us in better shape, or work on those strengths and build on those weaknesses all at the same time. Because you don't want to forget your strengths and be like, I just want to train my weaknesses.
Yeah, no.
Because your strengths are what are going to carry you through.
Exactly. Yep.
And then you just have to still build in some of those weaknesses to get stronger.
Yeah, and I mean,
often forgot
having your goal, your end goal in mind the entire time, to me, is a huge part of my mental strength that gets me through those kind of workouts. Because when you have a goal and you know, this is what I want to accomplish, this is where I need to be, I mean, it can really let you push yourself a little bit further, to do an extra set or do an extra rep or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so keep your end goal in mind, when you're training for these, because that's what's going to fuel your desire and your passion to keep going.
Yeah.
To keep working harder. And that's one of the big things for me. So
that, and starting early. One of my clients last year, she actually came to me like late January, and she was prepping for a elk hunt all the way in the first week of November. So, I mean, you're looking 11 months out, like it was like 10 and a half.
Yeah.
And she came to me, and we trained 10 months out, and like, I absolutely love that, because we got a ton of training in. I got to periodize her training and workout style throughout the entire thing, to work on multiple things and to actually build strength, to build in recovery and mobility, so we weren't just breaking the body down 2 months ahead of time where you're just busting your butt to get ready. And it's great. It's better. I'd rather have you do that than nothing. But you are going to beat your body up.
Yeah,
and you have higher risk of injury that way.
You can never start too early. I mean,
exactly.
As long as you can keep it going. Again, that's keeping your end game in mind while you're doing it. Is you don't want to forget towards the end. Be like, oh well, I've been spending the last 6 months training for this. I can take off some time here and there.
Yeah.
Now.
And
You want to keep it going. I mean,
that's
don't lose your mental focus as you get there.
That's where just year-round health and fitness,
Exactly.
it's never really, I'm just going to train for a specific hunt. You should have year-round health and fitness, living a life beyond average, what we talk about, how health and fitness does that for you. That way, when you draw that tag, you're already a healthy individual, and then you can ramp up that training and just periodize it throughout the year to just lock in.
The less that you got to build on and change, the better off you're going to be. I mean, the happier you're going to be. If you don't have to cut out, all this stuff and start changing up your entire schedule to, make time to do these a little bit longer workouts or whatever it is.
Right.
Just keep it. I mean, keep going all year round. Like you said, just living beyond average and being a healthy person.
Yeah, exactly. I think the last thing I'll key on with that as we're kind of wrapping up the podcast here, because we could branch off into 20 different wormholes here, and we'll have to do that in the future because I'm really liking this, is the rest and recovery aspect. We talk about training really hard, getting into these, but I think kind of a trend we've been talking about is things that we're forgetting or missing out on some of these hunts. And so let's keep that trend going. And I think something that's forgot about is rest and recovery. We train really hard, but are we stretching? Are we working on mobility? Are we getting proper rest? Are we having a deload week where we're still moving the body and moving some weight, but we're not amplifying things to these extremes? It's very important.
Stepping down, and you keep all that stuff going, but you're not killing yourself every step of the way.
Because you will amplify your performance by having rest. It feels like those weeks where you're not doing as much, you're like, oh, dude, I'm getting behind. But then you get back into that following week, and it ramps back up, and you're like, I'm performing better. I'm lifting heavier.
Yeah.
I'm going further
good.
on my
Holy
run.
Cow.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of science. That's why it's very important to get a proper training program. It's great if you've been training and you're in great shape, but never look past looking into actually doing a program that's periodized and programmed for you, because there's, in proper training and strength and conditioning, there's so much that goes into it from a rest, recovery, mobility aspect that, man, it can amplify you. You look at the professional athletes that are doing that. The best athletes in the world have trainers and training programs.
Everything's built for them. I mean, everybody's different. You can't just hop on what your buddy's doing and think it's going to get you in the same spot. Yeah. I mean, everybody's got their own different needs and different things that they're going to require to do to reach their goals, especially. But our bodies, just work differently biologically, and so what works for some people don't work for you. I mean, try to get something built for yourself. And a big thing that that I like to do, and I know you like to do, is keep a record of what you've been doing. Yeah. Keep a record of what you've done in the past. That way, when you do these rest and recovery times, you can look at what you were lifting before or how far you ran and what time it was, and now you can compare that to after the rest and recovery and see how much did I improve, what did I gain, what did that rest time do for me, right? And you'll start to notice the good that comes out of it. So agreed. So that was today's podcast. Had a little fun just talking about our experience, a little bit of hunting, things that are sometimes overlooked and forgotten. I look forward to having Devin back on the podcast again, maybe talking some his experience with a 170-inch whitetail and other hunts like this. It's great to have somebody on just to chat ideas back and forth with and make you think a little bit about I thought about that, but I've never really expressed it. So pretty awesome. Thanks for tuning in today, you guys. If you love this podcast, I'd love for you to share it with somebody else or drop us a rating on iTunes. Have a great rest of your weekend.